Welcome to Naresh Technologies. I'm Bangar Raju and this is a continuation series of our ASP.NET videos and we're learning about server controls. In the last video, I was just demonstrating about what is a postback, what is postback submission and about is postback. So what is postback? Postback is a mechanism of the page submitting back to itself. And what is a postback submission? Postback submission means the data of the page is submitted back to the page again. It is going to submit the data of the page back to the same page again. That's called as postback submission. And also we learnt about one property called as is postback. And what is the is postback? The is postback is to identify whether this is a first request or a postback request. Well, in this video, let us just understand about postback events and cached events. In this video, let's talk about postback events and cached events. What are postback events and what are cached events? To demonstrate this, let me add a new web form in our project. Right now, the web form doesn't have any controls on it. And if at all you go to the code view, by default our class contains a method called as a page_load. Actually, this is an event handler. What is this? This is an event handler which fires whenever the page is loading. This is an event handler which fires whenever the page is loading. See, not only page load, there are so many event handlers or events that are going to raise whenever a page is loaded. Like what? Page pre-init, page init, page load, preload, unload. A series of events are available for us and all these events will fire whenever the page is loaded. Every time the page is loaded, these events will fire. Actually, right now we have only page load event handler, but rest of all the event handlers also will come into picture. We'll talk about that when we discuss about the page life cycle. But as of now, by default, we have one event handler called page_load event handler, and this page_load event handler will fire whenever the page is going to be loaded. So when the page loads for the first request or the postback request, the page gets loaded every time in the sense it loads for the first request, it loads for the postback request, every time the page load event will fire. Suppose, if at all I'm just going to write a message here, response.write a simple code like hello world. And remember, I am making my first request to this page. Let us place a breakpoint here. I am going to run. Yeah. When you run this, you just notice, because we have a breakpoint there, the control was stopping on the line. And by pressing F10, we come to the next line of the code. So we just going to the next line. So now the statement hello world is executing and just coming out. It is just coming out right now. So this is executed. Fine. And now there is no postback here. Why no postback? Because there is no control which is going to submit the data back to this. So to make a postback, let me add a button on this. Simple button control. And for this button, I am not going to have any event handler, not required also, because as per our previous discussions, button control is specially designed for performing a postback. So whenever I click on the button, it will perform a postback. Come on, we'll make a first request to the page now. So again, I'm making a first request. Yeah, you can again watch it. It is executing the page load event and just coming out. Hello world. Now, when I click on this button, what happens? The page is submitted back to the server. So when I click on this button, it is submitting back to the server and again it is executing the code which is present in the page loader. Whenever we click on the button, it executes the code that is present inside our page load event. So what I'm trying to tell you is page events. There are a series of page events and all the series of the page events will be executing every time, either in the first request as well as under the postback request also. Okay. So page has a series of events and those events will fire every time the page is loaded. That is either in the first request of the page as well as in the post back request of the page. Either in the first request of the page as well as in the post back request of the page. Every time these events will fire. But remember, we have control events. Control events will not fire every time. Control events will fire only in the post back. Control events will fire only in the post back. Suppose if I write any logic under the button click, remember it is performing a post back. It is performing a post back to execute the code. But if at all I have any logic inside of my button, that will execute only when the data is posted back. It will not execute for the first time. Let's have a look. So let us generate a event handler for it. On click is equals to, and I am just creating an event handler, and you notice now I have button underscore click event handler, response dot write button is clicked. Okay, fine. Now just actually both these two gets concatenated. So to separate them, let me use a break tag over there. So first request now, page load event executes. Page load event, but we noticed that button click event did not execute. Click on the button. Now the button click event is executing. So this is what we call a post back event. Post back event means these events will fire only when the page is posted back. Post back events in the sense these events will fire only when the page is posted back to the server. That is from the second request onwards. That is from the second request onwards. And one more thing, notice it. Here, let's add another button. Again, same. ASP colon button, ID equals to button 2, run it equals to server, text equals to button 2. Let's change the caption here as button 1. Fine. On click equals to create new event. Okay, you can just use this option. When you say on click equals to, it will show you an option called create new event. Double click on it and it will generate you the new event handler for us. Come back. Fine. Here button 1 is click. Let me copy the same and pasting it here. Button 2 is clicked. Run. Yeah. When I click on button 1, the post back event executes. But which post back event? Because we had two post back events. Click on this. The first post back event executed. Click on this. The second post back. See, both are not executing again. What is executing? Which button you click, that particular button code only will execute. Okay, so post back events will execute only when the data is posted back. But when the data is posted back, in the sense all will not execute, only the corresponding will execute. See, this has an event handler which executes when I click on this. This has an event handler which executes, but this is executing every time. What is it? Hello world. Why? Hello world is written under page load, but this method or this event handler method executes when I click on button 1, and this event handler method executes when I click on button 2. Either or. So that's what we call them as post back events. Post back events in the sense these events will fire only when page is posted back to the server. That is, from the second request onwards they will execute. Okay. Then what are cached events? What are cached events means? In our last video, I demonstrated one example for us. What's it? We have a text box And for this text box, we have set auto post back property as true. So whenever we set the auto post back property as true, is it going to submit the page back to the server? Yes, it is going to submit the data back to the server. And what did we write in the page load event? We are writing this code. In the page load event, we have written this particular code here. Run this web page. Now here, the false indicates it is a first request, and here I am typing hello, and when I say enter, the page is submitted to the server, and after submitting the page to the server, it was just giving the message value of text box is hello. Value of text box is hello. See, do we require a button here really? Not required. Let me remove this button. Let me completely remove this button. Shift plus N. I don't have a button control right now. I don't have a button control right now in this web form. And now I'm just trying to type hello. And when I press the enter key, automatically what happens? It is going to submit the page to the server and displays the message hello. Again, world, enter. When I say enter, automatically I got this. Is a text box control capable of submitting the page to the server? No by default. No by default. But right now it is submitting the page? Yes, because by default it cannot do. But still we have set a property. What is the property? Auto post back. And because of this auto post back, it is submitting the page back to the server. Okay, I'll show you a new thing here. Watch. Let me add a new web form. On this web form, I was just simply placing one text box control and a button control also. Now, text box control, let us go to the design view and check out the events of the text box control. For the text box control, we have an event, and the default event is going to be text changed. The default event is text changed. When this event fires, when the text property has been changed, whenever the text property has been changed, this event will fire for us. Okay. Now here, I am just trying to write some code here. I am going to generate an event handler here. Double click and generate it. And here I am planning to write response.write text box, otherwise value of text box is plus text box 1 dot text. Text box 1 dot text. I am writing some code here. I am writing some code in the text changed event. Run this. I am entering here hello world, and when I hit the enter key, okay, I am just going to get the message. I am going to get the message here. Okay, I just got the appropriate message. What is that? Hello world. So basically, in which event did you write the code? Text changed event. In which event? Text changed event we have written the logic. When will the text changed event fire? The text changed event fires whenever the text in the control is changed. Whenever the text in the control is changed. Okay, I am using a tab key. But see, I did not use an enter key, I am using a tab key. Basically, when I use a tab key, is the focus coming out of the text box? Actually, the event has to fire and execute the logic, but the event did not fire and the logic did not execute. Here again I am showing you, my cursor is in the control, I use the tab key, immediately the focus is coming out, the event has to fire and the logic has to execute. It did not execute the logic. Why it did not execute the logic? Because the text box control is not submitting the page. But when I hit the enter key, the page gets submitted. Why? Because whenever I hit the enter key, by default the button click event will fire off and the page gets submitted here. And don't use enter key, just use a tab key. I am using a tab key and coming to the focus came to the button. But still the event did not fire. But notice one thing. come back to your source view, or otherwise design view, and set the property. Which property? Set the property. Which property? Auto post back. The default is false, make it true. Because the auto post back property set as true, the button, the text box control is now capable of posting back the data to the server. When I say hello and use my tab key, you see that I got the output. Why I got the output now? Again, try again. Hello, world, and I'm just using the tab key, navigating the focus out of the text box, and immediately the logic executed. Why it executed? Because the auto post back property of the control is set as true, and because the auto post back property is set as true, the text box is submitting the data to the server. When it submits, whenever the text is changed. So you change the text and trying to come out of the text box, it is submitting the data back to the server. Okay, again I am changing it as hello. I'll use my tab key. You better focus, concentrate on this. You will just understand here. I'm using the tab key, and you see, you noticed it, this got blinked up. And whenever that is blinked up, what is the meaning of it? The data is submitted. See, right now I'm using the tab key. The data is not submitted. Why is it not submitted? Text is not changed. The text has to be changed. I'm changing the text, hello world. Now the text is changed. When I use the tab key again the page is submitted now. Okay, and I'm getting this message here. Why I'm getting the message? Because you have written this logic under an event handler called as textbox underscore text change, text changed event handler. So because the logic consider text changed event handler, whenever the event fires, this logic executes. And to do that, first the controls auto post back property should be set as true. But I am again changing it to false. Run the web form. Now I am entering some text here, hello, and I will use my tab key. Is the event firing? No. Why the event firing? Event is firing, no doubt about it, but the page is not getting submitted. What is the problem? Event is firing, but the page is not getting submitted. Because the page is not submitted, the logic is not executed. Then when will the logic execute? The logic executes after you click on the button. Why button? The button will submit the page to the server, and then that logic will execute. Let's click on the button, logic executed. But did we write the logic under the button click? Button click doesn't have an event handler at all. We did not have even an event handler for a button click. You can notice it, the button click doesn't have an event handler. What logic executed? The logic which is present under the text box to text changed executed, but down to button click. But when is it executing? When the button is clicked, it is executing. Why? Because text box is not able to submit the page to the server. Event fires, but submitting the page is not happening there. Because the submitting of the page is not happening, even though the event fires, the logic did not execute. But when I click on the button, it is going to submit the page to the server, and the event is going to execute the logic. Okay. So basically what is this, this is called as basically a cached event. What is a cached event? See, when we define any event handlers to controls which are not capable of submitting page to the server, when we define any event handlers to controls which are not capable of submitting page to the server, when the events fire, based on client action, gets stored in the cache memory and fires after the page is submitted to the server. Understand? The event fires, basically when I am just losing the focus, the event which is going to fire will not execute the logic. Why is it not executing? Because the page is not submitted. So what will happen until then, these are going to stay in the cache memory, and whenever the page is submitted to the server, the event will fire for us, and that is what we call as cached events. Okay, what is the sequence of the events? Which event will fire first? Let us understand. which event will fire first. Okay, I am writing here response.write page load event fired. I am also using a break here. And now for the button, let us generate a click event handler. I am trying to show you the sequence of your events. What is this? This is a post back event of button. Post back event. And come here, this is a cast event of Textbox. This is a cast event of your Textbox control. I want to display this Textbox one.txt, remove it. Cast event of Textbox. Let's run this. First time the request goes. Which event fires? Page load event, because page events will fire every time. First time, next time, every time the page events will fire. Page event. Now I click on the button. When I click on the button, you see page load event fired and post back event of button fired. But the Textbox text change event did not fire. Why it did not fire? Because there is no change in the Textbox value. Now I am writing hello world. So do I have a change in the Textbox value? Yes. So this event is also going to fire, and see the sequence of the events. First, you will get paged events, and afterwards cast events, and afterwards we get the post back events. This is the sequence of the events. First page events will fire, and afterwards all the cast events of the control will fire, and finally last the post back events of the controls will fire. So the event sequence will be in this order. So this is what post back events and cast events means. Okay. First point is page events. Page events will fire every time. Post back events will fire only when the page is post back. Cast events means these are also post back events only. These are also post back events only, but they will fire only when the page is submitted. Until the page is submitted, they will be in the cache. When the page is submitted, they will be firing. So if you understand the sequence of the events, first all the page events will fire, then all the cast events will fire, and finally your controls post back events are going to fire. Thank you for watching the video. For more videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Naresh IT.